What's going on? I want to talk about opening up consciousness and what exactly integrally and conscious means, consciousness. And I feel like a lot of the interpretations of this are miscrooged, and that's pretty much it. So when we talk about consciousness, we're talking about a liveliness, and we can start off by first saying what the opposite of consciousness is: being dull, unsharp, uncunning, not alive, zombie-like, autopilot. I don't really like autopilot though, but a lot of people use it. And those are just some of the things you could maybe associate with verify that shows you it's not it. What consciousness is being alert, alive, aware. And if I had to put it into a short definition, it'd be what's going on around you. It's not something to necessarily attain. It's more something to be aware of, and it's not like some mystical place to go to. In this case, speaking. It just, and a lot of consciousness, there would be more to it. Probably if you were like, because a lot of people go to the store and buy their food, and it's different when you go to a store. Let's say if you live in New York, you go to New York, I'm sure there's vendors everywhere and there's produce everywhere, probably in abundance and somewhat fresh. I've never been there, but I'd imagine it's the same. And you go get a banana. But bananas don't grow in New York, though they could. But we're not getting into that. Because I have a video about Phipps Observatory in PA where they grow bananas in PA, okay? So if they grow bananas in PA, then they can grow anything. It's pretty much like a greenhouse. Phipps Observatory, you might not have been to it, but pretty famous in the Pittsburgh area. But they have a cocoa plant in there. They have banana trees that grow actual bananas. I'm just saying they can do this anywhere, but of course they're not going to allow it, but we're not going to get into this. The more so important is being conscious of where your food is coming from, and this is just one extent to the consciousness. And I just want to bring you the disconnection that is there, and this is how you become conscious, maybe for some people, because this could be problematic. There's different achievements to this and ways to go about it. When you have a banana in New York that you get, obviously it didn't come from there. They probably got it from somewhere in the tropics or down south. Usually probably Costa Rica is where most of the bananas come from, or maybe Ecuador, Honduras, Thailand, but usually it's down south in South America. So, or around there. And, it came and shipped. Did it come by a plane? Did it come by a vehicle, like a truck? Did it come as a gift? Did it come on a boat? Was the boat, a steamboat, electric, or was it gas? Most likely it's gas. Could be solar, but that's another one. How did it come here? How was it raised? Was it monocrop? Was it sprayed with a bunch of pesticides? Was it just raised with love? Because that's an ideal thing, to raise with love, caring. Or is it just a cash crop for somebody that's trying to run a monopoly and gain a quick buck? And there's no identity to this banana. There's maybe some go as far as say no nutritional value. And whatever. And then how did you get the money to pay it? Or did you steal it? Did someone give it to you? Did you find it? Did you go in a dumpster, or did you work hard? And how did you work to go get it? And of course, you probably know that. But now we have this banana in New York. Let's say, you know, we go, or you're living in New York, and it's in season, and there's apples. And this is a whole experience, living thing. It's a whole different experience to go pick the banana off a tree from wherever you're at and actually get it from there, because then you know where the food is coming from, and you know what's going on around it and how the environment is, and it is in your environment and what's going on around it. Whereas, you know, let's say you got in New York, just bring up another example, and you went and the apples were in season. Apples are in season, it's there, you go pick an apple. You know, it's super fresh, more than probably most likely ripe, and you know, probably super high quality, and you're getting the apple right off the tree, right then and there. You know what's coming from your consciousness. You created a connection. There's a feeling there. You know, you have a divine connection. Some people are not going to get this. Some people already know this, you know, and some people just like to hear this. In a good example of this that just hit my mind, which how it always does, you know, is it's connection and conscientious. If you ever heard about like biblical texts, but I'm not going into the text exactly, I'm more so going into the caves, Neanderthals, and around that time, or any time in history that's written on caves / rocks, maybe in some hieroglyphics, maybe on some papyrus, whatever that paper was. They always had animals that they hunted. You know, they worshipped the animals. There was a connection there, and they were conscious of this connection. This was what they were surviving off of, and maybe even go as far as along the lines to say they were thriving off of this. And you know, there's a connection there. They went and got the animal. They used every part of the animal, from the bones to the brain. They used the fur probably for coats, jackets, you know, blankets, or you know, they used it for trade, to sell. There's a bunch of things they could have used it for. And there's, you know, they could have even made weapons out of these bones, jewelry, not, you know, not like the shining diamonds. Not that there's nothing wrong with that, but they used the whole animal and everything. And they're just real connected to the nature. And I can't go into depth about it because, one, it's kind of pointless in a way. It's just not what I'm trying to get at. I just want to attack consciousness, because this is being conscious of what's going on, you know, and a life had to die. They didn't go to the supermarket for this food, you know, there was no money involved. This was a mere hunt, a full-on experience for the food. It could have been a live or die situation. They could have been starving before this, or they could have needed that because, you know, one of the kids needed feeded, or one of the women were pregnant and they needed to be fed. It could have been so many things going on. Or they were in a war and they needed food. Survival. Again, now it's different, and we can bring this into context. And I know I'm talking about food, but it's not. It's about everything. It's not just about food. Just good examples. And you go to food, and let's say you get pork or ham, and it's, you know, it's already cut, it's sliced in a package, especially young people, and this is called being aware, which is pretty much, I would say, equal to consciousness. You know, you just go and buy it. You know, you didn't get to see the harm, the killing. How was the pig raised? Was it factory farm, which had a lot of cruelty, disrespect, wasn't raised humanely, wasn't fed its diet, which is wild roaming and grass and insects, maybe even smaller animals to an extent for a hog. And, you know, even the animals, they genetically modified them, all of them, the pigs, the turkeys, the chickens, You know, they did it for specific reasons. Even the white and black cows aren't really white and black. They just give you that picture and they paint a perfect picture. Cows are dirty brown color, almost like in black, full black, not black and white. The Frankenstein cows, they pretty much invented those. Even peanut butter, I don't even think peanut butter is a real thing. They made it up, but we're not going to get into all that. But I'm just saying, when you go to the store, there's a disconnection there, and this is where awareness and conscientiousness becomes, you know, you hear vegans or just maybe vegetarians or activists saying like, oh yeah, there's da-da-da-da-da, they're saying about the harmful animal killings. You know, was the animal eating its natural diet? Did it have free roaming? Was the animal wild? Where did it come from? Was it raised humanely? Most importantly, with love? And how was the diet? You know, like, because if you feed them grains, you know, an animal's natural diet isn't grains, it's wildlife and it's grasses and other animals. And these pigs, as we were talking about, you know, then they inject them with vaccines or maybe hormones or genetically modify them through science and laboratorytation. So there's all these things going on. And this is where disconnection, you just go into the supermarket and go and buy it with, you may be born rich. You may have never had to do any necessarily work in your life to gain this money. Someone could have gifted you money. Your parents could have given you this money. You know, you could have found some money, you know. And yes, so you could maybe find some animal on the ground and eat it, I guess. But bring it back in the context with the hunters, they went and got it. There was physical activity involved. There was a whole experience. There was a hunt. There was a slaughter. There was patience, time. There was appraisal. There was sharing, caring, loving, you know, and respect, honor. There were a bunch of things involved. Whereas the middleman, which is the dollar, which is a whole nother topic, you can see how this was brought into play as the hunters just went and actually got the pig and went through all these emotions and actual feelings and tribal communion, whatever you want to call it, and physical movements. Whereas, like, you know, getting money going to the store, whether you're driving, which most people do, it's not that hard to go get it, and you don't see the killing, the slaughter. You know, I'm just bringing this into consciousness into play. And that's just one of the ways of opening up consciousness, is just being more alert. What's going on? And I would say, like, kids, for the most part, especially younger ones, majority of them are unconscious, and you can tell this. And I know, because my experience, my consciousness at one point just exploded into the world. And does happen to everybody? I don't know. I don't think so. And when we got, you know, kids, for example, they're just like, which there's nothing wrong with this either, but their consciousness hasn't necessarily opened. They don't know what's going on. They're still being breastfed or hand fed, you know, how changing their diaper, moving around, and just doing things all around. And they're not aware of what's going on with food they're eating. They're just eating what you're giving to them. They're doing what you're giving them to do, or whatever's focus. Sorry, I got real dark in here. But they're giving them all of that, I guess. Whatever, dark. And you can just look at a baby and become aware of this, what's going on with them. And it's kind of simple as that. And you can see how there's still a soul inside of this baby, but it's different when it becomes more conscious of what's going on. And different things happen, because not a lot of grown people or adults or even teenagers act like kids. Not saying they have to or need to, but or anything wrong if there does, depending on how they handle themselves. You just become more conscious of what's going on around you, how things work necessarily in the economy. Yeah, and maybe, and there's, I mean, this topic could be necessarily endless. They provide examples, but I just want to say, if you ever see a video, lay it out for you to make it more simple. It's kind of being open-minded in a way, not necessarily, but it could be. And not judging things and seeing things for how they are. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to lay it out simple. And it's not like some mystical thing, unless you treat it or think it as. You know, some people, whatever, they want to praise it or not, or blow it out of proportion. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in. And you know, a good way is just to become, example is like if you ever do shrooms. Now I know you're not always going to be in the state. Some say it's hallucinations, whatever, but even weed, it's just kind of like observing too. But shrooms could you know, you get more in tune with things, and that's kind of, don't expect your conscious to be like that all the time though, because obviously the drug induced that, and anything can induce it, different things in different perspectives of your reality. But the shrooms, you know, bring you in tune to different frequencies, and that's kind of like consciousness, being conscious. You're not going to tap the same without the drug. It's not going to be the same, but that's consciousness. That's a great example. Psychoactive things. And again, just being alert and alive, how the weather's going, how the weather feels, the weather's damp, the seasons. Some things, time usually makes someone wise, and mistakes. Just paying attention, observation. And it's just basically that, and no more. Thanks for tuning in.